Hello everyone, I am Durga Saujanya from Department of ECE, MLR Institute of Technology. Our today's topic was real-time kernel 2. So which is the extended topic from the real-time kernel 1 which is discussed in the previous video lesson. So this is covered in the unit 4 which is types of operating systems. Here in this we have discussed first what is the summary of previous session. In previous session we have discussed what is a real-time kernel. So what is meant by task and what are the different services offered by the real-time kernel. So what are the different services here? Task or process management, task or process management, task or process scheduling, task or process synchronization, error or exception handling. So these are the services which are discussed in the previous video session. So in this session we are going to discuss about the memory management service, interrupt handling service and time management service. So these are the topics which are discussed in the present session. Next, coming to the today's session, first one is memory management service. Here memory management function of RTOS kernel is slightly different compared with general purpose operating system. Because for general purpose operating system, the memory allocated for any application can be used for either general purpose OS. But here for RTOS, we can allot memory based on the priority for the real-time services offered by the OS. In general, memory allocation time increases depending on size of block of memory needs to be allocated and state of allocated memory block. So here, this real-time operating system is mainly the memory management offered by this real-time operating system is block type of memory. So block memory access. In general purpose operating system, we have the dynamic memory allocation. But in RTOS, we have the block memory allocation. Here the time which is used for allocation of memory will be increases depending on the size of block of memory needs to be allocated. So the size of the blocks which are used for allocating the memory to the OS and the state of allocated memory block. So that is initialized memory block or uninitialized memory block. So depending on the state of the memory block, it will be depends on the memory allocation time. So since predictable timing and deterministic behavior are the primary focuses for RTOS. So what are the basic properties of RTOS? So it should be having the deterministic behavior and it should be having the timing constraints. So by maximum utilization of these properties, we can achieve the effective utilization of memory allocation if we are allocating the memory. So based on this, that is size of memory of block of memory or the state of the memory block. So if we follow these two properties for allocating the memory, so then the basic properties of the RTOS will be achieved. So RTOS generally uses the block based memory allocation technique. RTOS kernel uses blocks of fixed size of dynamic memory and block is allocated for a task on a needed basis. Here what is meant by block? Block is meant nothing but a fixed size of memory locations allocated for a particular task. So like that, number of tasks are there, number of blocks are there. So and the block is allocated for a task should be not in a defined order. So based on the priority of the task, the memory block will be allocated to that particular task. So these blocks are stored in a free buffer queue. There is a queue which is called as free buffer queue. In that queue, we have task 1 like this. Here, this is for task 1, this is for task 2. For task 1, if the memory is needed for code memory, so this is allocated in the TCB and next stack memory is required, it should be allocated. So here for task 1, this is the entire memory of the kernel. In this first, the block will be used for task 1 and the next block is used for task 2 and next block is used for kernel object 1. So like this, the memory will be allocated and this is called as the free buffer queue. It allows tasks to access any of the memory blocks without any memory protection to achieve predictable timing and avoid timing overheads. So this kernel based on this queue mechanism, so to access any of the memory blocks without any memory protection, if we are not having any memory protection scheme, it is not safe for using in the RTOS. So that commercial RTOS kernels allow memory protection as an optional, and kernel enters a fail-safe mode when an illegal memory access occurs. Here the memory protection service for any real-time kernel is make as option. If for general purpose or for generally used RTOS services, they will not choose this as a specific option. But for commercial RTOS, they will choose this option as allowing the memory protection service. Then that particular memory protection service will be allocated for that commercial RTOS, and then any illegal memory access can be happened. Then the fail-safe mode will be entered and it will give the alert to the OS that the fail-safe mode is entered. And the memory management function of RTOS kernel is slightly different compared with the general purpose operating system. Here some of the RTOSs exhibits the virtual memory concept. Few RTOS kernels implement virtual memory concept for memory allocation if system supports the secondary memory storage. If there is a possibility for accessing the secondary memory storage, then this virtual memory concept will be used for that particular RTOS. In block-based memory allocation, block of fixed memory is always allotted for tasks on need basis and it is taken as a unit. So, the fixed block, a fixed number of memory locations which are allotted for a block, and now this block is utilized for a particular task. So, this all will be considered as one unit. So, if we are allotting a fixed location from starting location to the ending location, then there is no need of memory fragmentation issues. If fixed memories are allotted for fixed blocks and tasks, then memory fragmentation issues are not occurred in that particular RTOS. This memory allocation can be implemented as constant functions and it consumes fixed amount of time for memory allocation. This leaves deterministic behavior of RTOS kernel untouched. So, if memory allocation is implemented as a constant function, so that is a fixed amount of time is to be for memory allocation. So, if we are fixing the time for memory allocation, then it will not meet the deterministic behavior of the RTOS kernel. So, that's why when compared with these two methods, so it will be the more preferable method for allocating memory to RTOS. Next, interrupt handling service. So, interrupts inform the processor that an external device or an associated task requires immediate access of the CPU. So, this interrupt informs the processor that external device, so here we are having from the external device or an associated task from this side. So, if any of these two are occurred in the process or execution of the task, then it requires immediate attention of the CPU. Interrupts can be either synchronous or asynchronous. Whenever interrupt occurs in the OS, here like this exception. If any exception or interrupt enters into the kernel, so it will be alert the interrupt handler, and interrupt handler leaves the kernel for process execution and it enters into the separate mode which are executing that interrupt, and after completion of that interrupt service routine, again it comes back to the kernel software process. So, there will be two types of interrupts are there. One is synchronous interrupt or another one is asynchronous interrupt. Interrupts which occur in sync with the currently executing task is known as synchronous interrupts. That is software interrupts or divide by zero or memory segmentation error. So, these are all comes under in the execution process. When we are using any software program in the OS, if any software error occurred in the OS, so those are all comes under software interrupts which are called as synchronous interrupts. For synchronous interrupts, interrupt handler runs in the same context of interrupting task. So, here we need to have the same context of interrupting task and the interrupt occurring. So, then we are calling that synchronous interrupt is there, and asynchronous interrupts are the interrupts which occurs at any point of execution of any task. So, not based on the not based on the instruction followed in the program. So if we got the interrupt from the external side, then it is called as asynchronous interrupts. If in the program itself, whatever the program presently executing on that OS, if any error occurred in that current program, then it is called as synchronous interrupt. If the interrupt occurred from the external device or from the external source, not in the program which is executed currently, then it is called asynchronous interrupt. Asynchronous interrupts are the interrupts which occurs at any point of execution of any task and are not in sync with currently executing task. So examples for this are the interrupts generated by external devices to which interrupt line of the device is connected to processor or controller. So that means we have in the IC of the processor, we have separate pins are there which are used for generating the interrupts to the processor. So if we are having any external devices are connected to the pins, then if the interrupt is occurred by the hardware pins, then it is comes under asynchronous interrupts like timer overflow interrupts, serial data reception or transmission interrupts. So these are all the examples for asynchronous interrupts. For asynchronous interrupts, interrupt handler is usually written as a separate task, depends on the OS kernel implementation, and it runs in a different context. Hence, a context which happens while handling asynchronous interrupts. So that means we don't know whenever the interrupt occurred for the asynchronous interrupts. So that means if more than one external device causing interrupt at the same time, so then context switching will be happened there. So the context switching will be happened while handling asynchronous interrupts. The priority levels can be assigned to the interrupt and each interrupt can be enabled or disabled individually. So by using these two methods, we can avoid the context switching happens to the asynchronous interrupts. Most of the RTOS kernel implements nested interrupts architecture. Nested interrupt architecture means there are different types of interrupts are there. So that means one interrupt is here, if one interrupt is occurred to the process, so while executing the program of interrupt 1, so caused by the interrupt 1 when we are entering into the interrupt service routine of interrupt 1. So then here in this program of interrupt service routine, if we have the another interrupt like interrupt 2, so then the program execution is jumping from ISR 1 to the ISR 2 and after completion of ISR 2 again it comes back to the ISR 1 and after completion of ISR 1 again it comes back to the main process. So that means one interrupt causes to occur into the another interrupt. So that is called as nested interrupts. So interrupt nesting allows preemption of an interrupt service routine or servicing an interrupt or by a higher priority interrupt. If higher priority interrupt occurs in between these two interrupts, so that will be taking the higher priority. So then the process execution will stop at that particular interrupt and goes to the higher priority interrupt, and after execution of higher priority interrupt service routine, then it comes back to the main program. So this is called as nested interrupts. Next, time management. Accurate time management is essential for providing precise time reference for all applications. The time reference to the kernel is provided by high resolution real-time clock. So high resolution real-time clock, it is obtained by the hardware timer. So hardware timer which is provided for the OS is known as high resolution real-time clock. This hardware timer is programmed to interrupt the processor or controller at a fixed rate which is called as timer tick. Timer tick is the rate at which the time taken for the hardware timer to interrupt the processor. So it is taken as the time reference by the kernel and this interval may vary depending on the hardware timer. So it varies in microseconds range. So these are expressed in terms of multiples of the timer tick. So we can define any time parameter by multiples of timer tick. The system time is also updated based on this timer tick. So the timer tick interrupt is handled by the timer interrupt handler of the kernel. So basically what is meant by timer tick? It is the time defined by the hardware timer for interrupting the processor. The timer tick interrupt can be used for these operations. So to save the current context and to generate timing error or reset the system time register, if the timer tick count is greater than the maximum range of the system time register, then it will generate the timing error and update the timers and activate the periodic tasks which are in the ideal state, and invoke the scheduler and schedule tasks based on the scheduling algorithm, and delete all the terminated tasks and their associated data structures. Load the context for first task in ready queue. Due to the rescheduling, ready task might be changed to new one from the task which was preempted by timer interrupt task. So here the time management will be, here we have the timer tick interrupt is there, which is used for defining the time events of the OS. So here what is the present task which is running in that processor, in that OS, and how much time it will be taken for the task 1, and next how can we allocate the time for task 2, how can we prepare scheduling, so scheduling for each task, so how much time will be allocated for task 1 and task 2 and task 3, like that, and the service of each task, the time taken for execution of each task, and whenever completion of first task, keeping the second task in the ready queue, so how the states of the tasks will be changed. So these are all operations will be done by the time management. So in today's session we have discussed what are the topics covered in the previous session and what are the different services offered by the real-time kernel, and in the services offered by real-time kernel we are already discussed in the previous session that the task or process management, scheduling, synchronization, and error or exception handling. So these services are discussed in the previous session. In today's session we have discussed how the memory management will be happened in the real-time OS, and interrupt handling service will be occurred in the real-time OS, and how the time management will be done in the real-time kernel. So these are the topics which are covered in the present video session. We will discuss in the next session. Thank you.